gosh. I just gave myself a paper cut.
No. I hate paper cuts.
If you're a controller thrower, don't play. Like me, I can't play the game because I will freak out. Little nuts on a little nugget. Full confession, I've done that. But like in general.
Oh no, I love it on you, Melissa.
Different for me.
I just want to play a video game where I can woohoo in my own home.
Alright, we're live.
Yeah. We be out here.
Welcome back.
I'm so ready. Welcome back.
Welcome back, folks, to Click and Flick.
Click and Flick.
The only podcast where you can click and flick your flicks. Clicking all the time, flicking all night. Baby, click my flick.
Every day. Early in the morning when you're taking shit.
I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay. Welcome back to Click and Flick. I'm Ammiel.
Yes, I'm Melissa.
And we don't know what we're doing.
At all. This episode, we're starting with the flick, right?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I have a lot to say.
Yes. Okay. Me too.
This is not
okay. This is not really the movie that I was expecting it to be from the trailer.
Really? Okay.
Which is, well, I guess I didn't really. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to the trailer, but I really thought it was like a rom-com.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be like an anti-rom-com.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is kind of like turning into a little bit of a different outcome than I was expecting. So the movie, the flick of the evening is Good on Paper.
Yes. It's a great title, too.
I did enjoy it, I think, more than I thought I would, because it wasn't what I was expecting.
Okay. I'll just come right out and say it. Like, my first notes about the movie, I was about like I'd say a third of the way in, right? And I said, poorly written and predictable. But then, obviously, my opinion changed later.
Yeah. So, later. I thought that, too. Like, at the beginning, I was like, what the hell? Like, this is, like, really... I was like, okay, these are, like... whatever. Right. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's go through the movie like we do.
I'm ready.
So this movie, it kind of starts out with her doing stand-up, and let me explain who this is. So this movie, Good on Paper, is written by Eliza Schlesinger. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Is so hard for me. And
yeah, it is
one
hard.
of my favorite songwriters also has the same last name, and I've never been able to say it right. So Schlesinger, Eliza Schlesinger.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Is the main. She's a real stand-up comic. So she's had a lot of Netflix. Yeah, I think she wrote it. She didn't direct it. She did write it.
Okay.
So she's had a lot of Netflix specials, which is what I've known her from before, and I think a lot of people recognize her from her stand-up comedy, obviously. I think this might be her first movie, at least the first one where she's like the lead actress and where she like wrote it. So it starts off with her doing stand-up.
Now, before it starts, didn't it say it was based on a true story about a lie?
I think that this really happened to her.
To her?
Yes, I think this is a real... I think she made a movie about a real relationship.
Okay, continue. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that this really happened to her. Wow. So it starts off with her doing stand-up. It's kind of showing us who she is, and She's living in LA, and she kind of has the typical trying to be an actor but doesn't really make it. So you see her at an audition, and she kind of talks back to the director, and they don't like it. And she, like, you see her run into the other, like, blonde girl that's her competition, and she hates her, and she's super jealous of her. And so she is flying. So she ended up having to fly back from that audition. And this is where she meets the guy. Who... Dennis. So they meet, and it's like this typical, like, airport meet cute where she, like, drops her ticket, and then he picks it up, and he's like, oh, is this yours? And then, oh, they sit next to each other on the airplane. How funny our tickets are. Oh, it's like, what's that word? Destiny. And they end up, like, talking, and she finds out from him. He says, like, oh yeah, I went to Yale and blah blah blah. I have this girlfriend who's a supermodel. And that's that. That's how they meet. So then we follow Andrea. Andrea is the name of the lead character that is played by Eliza Schlesinger.
Schlesinger. Hey, that was pretty good.
Was it good? Okay, cool.
I think so.
So Andrea, character's name, Andrea, goes back to the bar, and we find out, we meet her best friend. So her friend owns the bar.
Correct.
And she's having a conversation with her friend in the bar, and her friend is just saying stuff like, oh, you inspire me because you don't care that you haven't done anything with your life, and you are not successful by 35 and blah blah blah. So she's kind of like roasting her.
That's right. Yeah.
But then she goes back and flips to her stand-up set. So this movie is kind of like, the way it's edited is going between the story and then her performing her stand-up set. That's kind of, her jokes are aligning with the story. So it's like a Seinfeld.
Correct, yeah.
Like
third wall kind of thing.
Sure. I mean,
maybe not, but
yes,
get what I'm saying.
It's that thing where it's like, now I'm talking to you as the audience to give a commentary on the story. Yeah.
Right.
But then at the end of her comedy set, she's outside, or she's walking down the hall outside the stage, and he comes up to her, Dennis, dun dun dun, comes up, and he's like, wow, that was so a great show. You are super duper funny. Me laugh much. And she's like, wow, you're here. Nobody ever comes to my shows.
I can't with his character, dude.
Yeah, and then she ends up taking him back. His character is so gross. Then she ends up taking him back to the bar, and they like hang out with his friend because he suggests it to hang out and get a drink and stuff, because he's like, oh, my supermodel girlfriend's photo shoot is running late. Maybe we can get a drink.
That's right. That's right.
And then at the bar, he's like going on and on about how he's like so smart and wealthy and just like knows everything.
He works with hedging and like
right
makes a lot of quote unquote money and
yes, quote unquote money. And
yeah.
Her friend even asks for, like, some financial advice, and he's like, don't buy that stock. It's no good, blah,
That's
blah, blah.
right.
Like, super confident, like, he knows everything.
Right.
And so they basically have this, like, moment then where after they're at the bar, they do, like, a montage of like, we're becoming friends now. And it's like a lot of drinking, a lot of like, they're with different people and stuff. And he, it's just like a montage of like them getting to know each other. And he's just like the perfect gentleman throughout the whole thing. Right. And he's just like, oh, let me do this. Oh, let me do that. And he helps her like audition scripts and stuff.
Oh, that's
helps
right.
her with memorizing and practicing and studying all those stuff. But she's like over all this, all over the montage, her inner monologue is like, yeah, he's nice and he's funny and we get along and I can be myself around him, but he is not attractive. Like,
right.
He's not good looking. And true, like, yeah, they did a great job. That's fair.
Yeah.
No hate to the actor, obviously.
Oh, absolutely not.
I'm sure he's good looking in real life, but they did a very good job of making him look so just.
It's like straight out of 70s.
It's like tapioca pudding.
70s again. It's just spot on. It's spot on.
I feel like that's what he is. Yeah.
Yes.
So then, I actually don't find her stand-up act like super funny all the time.
Me either.
I know that some people do. Like, she's obviously successful because people think she's funny, and I think that's good. Like, I think she's a good stand-up comedian because she like knows how to put a set together and get an audience to enjoy it, just because it's not my style comedy. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. I completely second that statement.
But there is one part of the stand-up set that comes in after like this friend montage thing that I don't really care for, so I don't know. I know that like not everyone has to think like me either, but I don't necessarily like her jokes about okay, so she starts in her stand-up act is talking about like, is it okay for girls to hang out with guys that they know they're never gonna have sex with?
That's right.
And I just feel like that whole like statement and that whole question is so like 80s.
Drawn
you know
out.
what I mean?
And
like it's like old. Like men and women are friends now all the time without having sex. It's like not a thing anymore. And that conversation and that like kind of joke doesn't make sense. But I guess it's okay. Like, it's fine for you to have that perspective because I guess some people do. Like, they only hang out with girls and like the guys they know only hang out with guys or whatever. So fine. I know people exist differently. But what I also don't like is that she is saying, I think it's okay for girls to hang out with guys without ever intending to have sex with them because guys will date girls and never have intentions to marry them. And that's the same thing. Like, the end goal for guys is always to want sex, and the end goal for girls is always to want to be married. And I just think that that's kind of antiquated. I don't know if that's, like...
that whole speech, I had the whole, like, drawn-out section, I was like, at this point in the movie, I couldn't stand the writing. I couldn't, like... It was like it's when the second form of embarrassment when you're getting embarrassment from
secondhand embarrassment.
Thank you. Yeah. That's exactly how I felt, and I was like, stop! I can't.
I kind of felt like it was like a newbie script. I don't think it was like necessarily terrible, and I do think this story was enjoyable. However, like the dialogue was forced in a lot of places, in my opinion.
Very much.
And so I'm like,
especially some of Dennis's lines and the actor that did say those lines. It was rough, but anyway. Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. No. So yeah, I'm just complaining about her stand-up act, but that's the only one that I really was like, I don't know. So after that show, they're all walking back and it's her and her friend and the guy, and they end up a drunk dude from the audience comes up and just starts like kind of harassing her verbally, like, hey, you're funny for a girl, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And he like kind of stands up for her. Well, does he even?
I think
like,
he
stand up
says
for
something, but her
Yeah.
friend, the bar owner, was the one to like shove
Right.
him off. Yeah.
Yeah, her friend who owns the bar just basically like ripped his head off and like
Yeah.
mama bared him out of the picture.
Yeah, basically.
But she ends up back at dinner with the guy, with Dennis. The menace.
Accuracy.
And this is when the first like red flags came up for me, like noticeably, because I was like, this guy is like, yikes, because he asks her to be his girlfriend and she says no, like she's not interested, and then he starts pushing back and is like, these are the things that stuck out to me like red flags. When he goes, I know you better than you know yourself.
Yeah.
I was all, excuse me?
I'm right? Like,
no.
The audacity?
I actually had a guy text me that one time when I was, like, in college. He was drunk, and he like, asked me out over a drunk text. And I was all, I'm not really interested in you. Like, we're good friends, but no. And he's all, I know you better than you know yourself. You do want me. And I'm all, okay. And then it was just a little bit awkward between us for a couple months.
What
and
do you say to that? Other than, like, I know myself?
Yeah, but,
God.
Yeah, that's just such a, like, a weird thing to say to someone who's rejecting you. Don't say, like...
Right. And how pushy he was about it. Like, I could give you things that would make you happy. I'm the best thing for your life. Like, I was like, okay...
Right.
Where are they going? This is where my predictability came in, obviously, because it was a big hint, you know?
The next red flag on this dinner date that Dennis said to Andrea is when he told her, he goes, don't lose me because you're too dense to know what's good for you. Oh, what? You're now insulting her and calling her dense? Like, who insults somebody and calls them names in the middle of trying to convince you to date them? What?
Seriously.
I'm like, brother. Oh. Seriously? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Then the most nasty thing happens at the very end because he ends up forgetting his wallet.
Oh my god, yes.
Which is like, you didn't forget your wallet. You're fucking poor, dude. Like,
right?
Sorry. Like, no, that's my reaction when it, I mean, and I don't care. Like, just don't lie about it. Like, if someone, like, I don't care who's paying for the date. You know what I mean?
Right. Didn't it decline?
But don't
Didn't
pretend
he give him
and lie.
The card?
Oh, it declined. Right,
but
right.
It declined, and then
it was the wallet thing another time. But yes, you're right. So it declined. And then she ends up like, he's like, oh, let me get another card. And then she's like, no, I'll pay for it. That was what it was over. And so she pulls out the other card and she ends up paying. And then he does this pouty face like, oh my God, thank you. Oh, baby. Oh, poo. Like, I hate pouty faces. Pouty faces are so yucky. They're gross. Only like babies should do them. Like, but it's just the most unsincere way that you can express any kind of emotion is like doing a pouty face and being like, oh baby cuckoo, I'm so sorry, like thank you so much for paying, oh how can I ever, oh my goodness, like I hate pouty faces on grown human beings.
Full confession, I've done that, but like but like in general,
oh well, no,
like,
I love it on you, Melissa.
Different for me. No, I do it out of like habit too. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like I do the
okay, but no.
I don't do it often.
But you're not doing it to try to get somebody's like sympathy for like you screwing up doing something. Like you didn't like mess up, you know what I mean? Like you're also doing it as a joke. Like I mean, like this guy was like seriously like, oh my God,
it was his genuine reaction.
It was like him
paying for food.
his genuine, like, him trying to get her to think that he's grateful.
Which is important later
his
on,
genuine manipulation.
Yes. And this was the start of, because obviously, not to spoil it, but yeah, they get together eventually. But throughout the rest of their relationship, she did this thing. Every single time he would show a side of himself and it was clearly a red flag, she'd be like, yes. Oh, she would run in the opposite direction. She'd be like, oh my God, like, yeah, let me help you. Let me do this. Oh my God, your mom. And I couldn't, that was just the beginning of her situations where she did that. And it pissed me off.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
As a character, like, it was just obvious that it was like, this person is letting this guy kind of like walk all over her because she's
being manipulated.
Like, she's bending to every like emotion that he is like trying to get her to react to.
Right.
And she just kind of falls for his lies, you know what I mean? So she says no, like, no, we're not going to date. I'm not interested in you. And dinner's over. She's at the bar with her friend again, and she gets the call that she got the part in the TV show that she auditioned for. So this is really exciting. And she goes out to celebrate at a bar, and she meets like a guy, just this cute guy, whatever, sitting at the bar, some random dude. And this was another part that I was like, this is just weird to me. Like, because he, like, just as it's written, you know? Right. Because he orders this drink and it comes back and it's like a frilly, fancy drink with lots of like embellishments. And he's like, oh man, I got a girl drink. I didn't know this drink had a uterus. That wasn't on the menu. And like, she's like, man, you do have a girl drink. That drink is gonna, like, I don't know, like...
Yeah,
she's like, let me take a picture of you with it to make fun of you for being a man who got a drink that is feminine.
Right.
And
by society's standards, yes. And then she's like, pose with your arm and flex with it so it doesn't look, so you're like manly and whatnot. And we're like,
yeah. And I'm like,
God.
I'm like, that's fine, bro. Drink what you want to drink. Like, what?
It probably tastes good.
It probably tastes good. What the fuck? Like,
I know.
Shit, dude. Just take a drink. Take a swig. You like it. You'll like it.
You know you like it.
He's good.
He's good.
But I'm like, dudes, like, everybody can order a drink and it be whatever they want. A girl can order a beer. And a boy can order a drink with a flower in it, and like gender is made up. So
yeah, they get alcohol later in the story, and he orders a round of IPAs, and there's 2 females there and 2 guys there.
Sure. Like, so what's
it's not
the deal?
made into it's not made into this big problem. Ew, okay.
But it is this idea of like, the closer it is to femininity on the scale, that just means the closer it is to bad. And so it's like, ooh, you can't get this girly drink. But it's probably a really tasty drink. So
exactly.
Whatever.
Get off.
So that's another just part of the story where I'm like, this is like comedy for
men.
The patriarchy.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, fine, because if that's the world you live in, you need a laugh too, I guess.
It's true.
Anyway, so while she's at the bar making fun of this actually hot guy who she should have gone home and slept with, she gets a phone call from Dennis, who's like, I'm so sad. Come comfort me. My mom is sicky. My mom is
This
sicky
was a
wicky.
red flag.
Yeah, this was so gross. Because it's all, because spoiler, it's all a lie, right? Like,
right.
So he calls the mom, or No, he calls to say his mom has cancer.
Right.
And she goes over there, and wow, lo and behold, it's this really rare, super, like, random cancer called craniopharyngioma. I said it so wrong. Oh, God. Craniopharyngioma. And she says it at the same time as him, and she's like, I played a nurse on the TV show, and my only line was, like, saying this type of cancer, so I know exactly. And it's like,
oh gosh,
he,
right.
like, right. He did that because he's stalking you, weird, crazy, like.
I know.
So then he cries more, like, crying.
Now, where was he when he called and told her to come to him? I forget.
Because
he wasn't at his house.
I don't know where he was.
Was he at a bar or something, or a dinner place or something? I can't remember. Anyway.
I don't remember, but they ended up going back to her apartment because he never takes her back to his place, so he wouldn't be at his house. I hate seeing grown people cry for, like, extended periods of time. It's uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. I'm sorry. And I know everyone is like, everyone's emotions are valid.
Absolutely.
And everyone needs to express their own emotions. But for me, when I see, like, a grown person crying over something that I feel like...
You can't help to feel uncomfortable.
Not like him crying over his mom getting cancer is a bad thing, but it's like... It's just... When you're using crying as a weapon to manipulate somebody else, it's so obvious to see that somebody is, like, forcing themselves to keep crying, and then they, like, keep, like, trying to stay in the sadness because crying doesn't, like... last that long naturally, and it's just so weird to see.
I agree.
Obviously, like, everyone grieves differently.
Right, but like,
tears should not be weaponized.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are so often.
And I mean, well, most people that can see through something like that will know how genuine it is. Mm-hmm. Like.
Yeah.
And the person doing the crying will make it genuine if it's genuine,
Yeah. And for the record, I do admit that I cry at least 12 hours every day. So it's like, I'm not a saint here. No. I know I'm doing it too. Like, we all cry.
We all. Like,
but, the things we don't like about other people are the things we don't like about ourselves.
That should be it's a motto, honestly. Oh, God. And, what's funny is, doesn't she say that at the end of the movie? Something like that?
I don't remember. Oh, my God.
Because I remember connecting to it. I'm like, ooh, yeah, I really, I relate to that.
Maybe, probably. But anyway, so she's like, here, I'm going to cheer you up. Let's get drunk. Let's go out and party. They go out. They go to the bar. They're drinking. They're partying. They're dancing. They're having a good time. And he, like, backs her up against the wall and starts making out with her.
That was hot. I mean, I don't think Dennis was cute, but it was a good moment. It was.
Yeah, I'd be down for someone. I was making dinner. Yeah, I'd be down for someone to do that to me. Not someone who I already said, no, I don't want to date you to.
Right.
But if, like, a rando at the bar, yeah, cool. No.
Yeah, cool. It just felt like everything that led up to that point was not as creepy. I don't know. Because she obviously wanted it. And she was like, I'm drunk, which gave me a weird vibe at first. But then seeing her reiterate it back, I was like, okay, that's cute. Like,
it seemed definitely like she was. I feel like this is how they portrayed it. They were both drunk and they were both, like, in the mood to. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be with her, and she was like, well, I'm in the mood to make out and hook up because that's what she wanted to do at the other bar. And so she was already like, well, I'm going to try and do it with this guy. That's how I kind of read it.
Good connection.
So it didn't give me those kind of like consent vibes, like missing consent vibes. It didn't get that from it.
Right.
I got like she was just kind of like balls to the wall because I feel like making out and this guy's here and he is my friend, but we'll deal with those consequences after.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's what I felt like she was thinking.
Absolutely.
Which is valid. People are allowed to want to make out.
Exactly.
But then after that, then they end up like dating. He gets exactly what he wants because she ends up making out with him. They go home and then they're like, blah, blah, blah. So now they're together. And she's like, oh, wow, now I have this rich boyfriend and he's going to think that he told me he's buying me a bracelet. This is like a fancy gift. I need to get him something. She ends up buying him these like $500 tumbler glasses because he loves alcohol. And like he loves alcohol. Mm-hmm. And how does she... Oh, she wants to bring it to his apartment. That's how she finds out, right?
Yeah, and then her friend was telling her to go with her. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So her friend goes with her and they go to drop off this gift at his apartment because supposedly he owns this nice house in Beverly Hills, but it's under inspection or something. There's some reason why he can't move in yet, so he is still renting an apartment and staying in this apartment. Mm-hmm. So she's like, I'm going to take it to his apartment and drop it off as a surprise.
Right.
And she goes to the address and it's not an apartment, it's a house. And she's like, okay, this is kind of weird. And she like goes up and knocks on the door and she sees these two women who live in the house with him. She's like, what? Like he has roommates he's never mentioned? That is a little bit weird, right? So that's kind of a red flag. And when she gets back in her car, sorry, did you want to?
No, they knew about her. Dennis had told them that they were like, "Oh, I'm so happy to meet you." You know? So they definitely knew what was going on.
Yeah, because I guess we can jump around a little bit, but later on we find out that he had been telling them that they were dating for like a year. And they kind of maybe even didn't believe she really existed, the kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
oh, is this girl even real? Like, who would date this guy? He has whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So then she calls him in the car and she's like, do you have roommates? And he's like, I'm not doing this with you right now.
Oh, that's right.
I haven't had time to prepare. Like,
oh,
it's so shitty. I hate people doing that stuff. Like, I'm not doing this with you right now because you know you're in the wrong. Because you know you just have to make something up.
Exactly. Like, that set me off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was so mad after that.
And then he just shows up at her house like, hey, hun, ready to go? Like, nothing is wrong. And she's like, excuse me? Like, what's going on? Like, I'm not going anywhere with you. You lied to me about having roommates. And he's like, you're right. That's so wrong of me. I have to, tell you now, like, the truth is that my mom is, like, really sick. And so she lives in my house in Beverly Hills. And I have to leave the house so she doesn't feel like I'm taking care of her all the time. And so I stay at this house with them because I just, like, keep my stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm doing them a favor. My friend from Yale never was successful. Not like you. You're so successful. And then adds a little bit of that love bombing, like trying to compliment her, make her feel good. You're so successful. My friends aren't successful. They need my help with money. Ew. And then she's like, okay, I can't believe I didn't believe you. I can't believe I ever didn't trust you. That's a good excuse. Right. She's like, I believe it. And he's like, here, these are my lies. And she's like, oh, are you going to finish eating that? I'll eat it. Just kidding. I don't know what that means.
I was following.
Okay. But then she's like, oh, so anyways, tell me about your house. Where is it? And he's like, it's in Beverly Hills. It's right off of so-and-so street. And she's like, that's kind of like West Hollywood. He's like, oh, no, it's Beverly Hills. It's right here. She's like, oh, no, that's like even more West Hollywood. And he's like, no, it's on this street. It's on this street. And I swear it's West Hollywood, or it's Beverly Hills. And she's all, no, okay, sounds good. And so her friend calls and so he's like, oh, I'm gonna go take this stuff to the car. Her friend calls her, and she's like, hello, friend, warning, I called Yale, and he never went to Yale. And she was like, stop trying to ruin my life, and hung up.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
That's actually not true. They hung up because he comes back in.
Yeah.
And scares her. She's like, I gotta go.
Scares the shit out of her.
But they end up going, and on this like weekend trip, they end up playing golf with Andrea's actual friends who actually went to Yale.
Oh, like in real life?
For real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome.
No. I mean, like,
oh, in the
like
movie.
the characters.
Okay.
Oh wow, they really went to Yale? Cool.
That's cool. Oh god, I'm gullible sometimes.
But not even like, I wasn't even trying to make you believe anything. It was just like no, so the friends that they're meeting to play golf, she's like, oh, you'll like them, they went to Yale too. And so he meets them, and they're like, oh, what school were you in? And he's all, Yale. And they're all, like, yeah, but like, what school? Like,
right.
Like, and he like couldn't answer, and they were like, oh, okay, whatever. And then he gets really upset that the golf course does not serve hard liquor.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, just beer. And so he orders beers and then chugs the beer in like one sip. It's so embarrassing. And she's like, what? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And he goes up to take his turn golfing and goes like, first of all, his form immediately looks like crap. Like, he's holding the freaking golf club. I don't know. He looks like a child playing gator golf, really. And it's just so embarrassing. He doesn't look good at all. And then he, like, swings back very slightly and goes, and like, oh, my back! And falls over. And they're like, oh my god. He, like, threw out his back. And he goes, oh my gosh, I have a bad back like my dad. And her friend is like, bad back is not hereditary. He's all, I was in a car accident with my dad, and we both got hurt. We
in
both
the
hurt
same
our backs.
spot?
She's like, you both hurt your back in the same spot? And he's like, yes, we both hurt our back in the same spot. And then looks at Andrea and goes, right before he died of cancer. And she, on her face, immediately you can tell, like, this is when she really is like, this is too much. Like, her friend calling her and, like, giving her the heads up is when she started, like, looking for things. And so the whole alcohol and beer thing and Yale thing was, like, you could see in her eyes she was questioning. And then this thing, she was, like, offended.
Oh,
like, you're really trying to manipulate me. And she could tell. So they're back in the hotel room, and he's like, oh, I had such a fun time with your friends. And she is like, hey, do you remember that bracelet you were going to get me? Whatever happened to that? And he's like coming up with a bunch of excuses. And he's like, oh, they had to redo the gold chain. And she's like, oh, you thought it was silver or something. There was some detail. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's what I meant, silver. And she's like, okay. And then he is like, she starts questioning things. And he's like, I know what this is about. You're still don't trust me because of the house thing. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you about my roommate. So he then is like not answering any of the questions she's actually asking about. Then he like shifts it to focus on this thing. And then he's like, I'm so sorry. Starts crying again.
Yeah.
You're using tears as a weapon. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I do love you. And then he's like, oh my god, I love you too. Will you marry me? And he like proposes to her with this like god-awful ring. Ugh.
Just to give you context, it's red and blue gemstones. And she references it and says it looks like a penis. Like,
yes, because it's
there
like,
you go.
It's like a long oval cut ruby with two blue stones, like, as little testes.
Next to it. Oh, it's terrible.
Little nuts.
Little nuts.
Little nuts on a little nugget.
Oh, so gross.
Yeah, it does. It is a bad ring. But then she gets another call from her friend, that is, now she's telling her that he's, like, not rich. He doesn't have, like, the money that he says he has.
Right.
He's not rich. He's not successful. And she's like, well, we're going to see his house, and I'm going to meet his mom. So, he is. And then later he calls and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, babe. We can't go see my mom today. She's not feeling well. And then she's all, oh, fuck this. We're fucking going to the house today. I'm seeing this shit for myself.
Right.
So she ends up hooking up with the girl who she's, like, super jealous of in the beginning, because they, like, end up getting a job together on the same TV show, and her friend, and now this, like, triad of, like, girl power is going to stalk this guy's house.
Yes.
She goes to the address in Beverly Hills that he gave him, and she knocks on the door, and it's, like, a Hispanic woman who only speaks Spanish, and she's like, hola? And she's like, does Dennis live here? Are you Dennis's mom? And then her daughter comes in. She's like, hello, can I help you? And she's like, oh, sorry.
She's like, you have the wrong address.
She's like, you have the wrong address. And so they go back and they go to, like, a food truck. And they're, like, stuffing their faces, which I'm like, I want that.
Yes.
That looks so good. That they're, like, stuffing their faces, and she's like, oh my gosh, like, all of these lies, like, how much of it was lies, what, like, for how long, and they end up like, you know what, we're gonna get answers from his roommates. So they go back and they start talking to his roommates, where they're asking all these questions, and they find out that he's not a hedge fund manager. He actually is, like, an assistant at a bank, and he is always asking for money. He's never on time with his rent. He was lying about their relationship from the beginning. And they go and show him his little sad-ass boy room, like, a little twin-size bed, and just, like, nothing. It's just, like, sad.
On his little laptop was the whiskey glasses on eBay just to see how much they were worth.
Yes. He was selling them.
Yeah.
He was selling them on eBay. And her friend's like, oh, let's leave. Yeah. Let's go. Fuck this guy. And so she is in the streets, and she just, like, has a breakdown where she's, like, crying, and she's just going through, like, kind of every moment of the relationship, wondering
honestly
what was a lie. And it's like, that moment is, like, relatable. When you're like, oh my god, when you find out someone's been lying to you for years, and then you're like, oh shit, how could I have done this? How could I have fallen for this?
She makes a good point too, like, lied from the very first second she met him. Like, I'm from
she's
Yale. Like
he said, I went to Yale when they met on the airport, he said, and
oh, just bad.
She just breaks down, and this was, like, her acting was good in this moment, because her, like, crying just looked so real and so genuine and so raw. That's why I feel like this is her story. Like, she did, like, go through this, I feel like.
Yeah,
that is
I did
so
confirm
shitty.
It's based on her.
It is based on her.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh god, you can just see that betrayal of, like, the person who you thought you could trust, because it's not, like, it's not easy for a lot of people to, like, be themselves around, you know, just around anybody. We all have that kind of
that wall
that once someone like breaks through, it really has really proven themselves, then we can be ourselves around them, you know, and we don't. Like, and that takes different time for everybody based on how we feel about that person and the connection we have with that person. Sure. So it's like when you meet somebody that you trust them pretty quickly because you do feel a connection and you let that guard down. And then it's like, oh, it turns out that they're actually lying and manipulating you to get you to feel like you have a connection, to get that wall down, to get something from you.
It's
feels
the worst.
like,
I could imagine it's the worst, dude.
And seeing that all on her face was just like, ugh, yeah. And she, like, in that scene, they turn it around from, like, her feeling sad and something to, like, you watch it turn from, like, grief to anger when she's like, we're gonna get him back.
Yeah.
Or is it her friend who starts saying that? Because I feel like it's her friend.
Was like,
her friend
was like, are you gonna sit here and wallow in self-pity, or are you gonna actually do shit about it? And she's the one that kickstarts it.
Her friend is, like, definitely the feisty one.
Yes.
Who's, like, pushing, like, kicking her ass to get her up to do stuff.
Yes.
So she's like, let's trick him to come over to the bar and we'll get him drunk and we'll get him to confess or whatever. So she's like, hey, let's celebrate. I just got another job. Let's meet me at this bar. Then he goes. They end up getting him way too drunk that he passes out, and they have to, like, carry his body, like, into
hundreds
this other
yards.
room. Right. And so he's, like, super heavy, and they end up, like, he gets stuck on a door and gets, like, a really bad injury, like an actual one this time. And he's bleeding, and they take him and they tie him up into a chair and they, like, record him. It's like a pretty intense scene.
It is, yeah.
It looks like, some, like, blackmailing kind of stuff, you know, like Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah. I
but
feel it.
She ends up confronting him, but before he, like, comes to, he's, like, sitting there in the chair and she's looking at him, and then she's having, like, flashbacks of all of the good memories with him. And it's like those hurt even more because they're not good memories anymore. They're just, like, images of you being tricked.
Yeah.
So she's just, like, so hurt, just, like, staring at him, and he comes to, and then she confronts him about all the lies, and he's like, what lies? And she's like, come on, like, I know what's going on. And she ends up, after he confesses, like, she just lets him go. She's like, I just don't want to see you anymore. And he like, takes her to court for tying him up and stuff. And so the cops come and is like, oh, you're under arrest for assault or something. Yeah. And so she's like, now after all this time of him lying to her and hurting, like, trying to hurt her, then he, like, goes and does this to her.
Yeah. Typical
men.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was like there are certain situations where obviously the social justice system has failed a lot of people. I'm just saying, and this was so frustrating for me.
100%. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. So, it's so fucking sickening. Mm-hmm. So he takes her to court, and she ends up, like, while they're in court during a recess, she even, like, hears him in the other bathroom, like, practicing in the mirror going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like, all these different apologies, and she's, like, tries to, like, get him to just, like, stop, and he, like, threatens her again. Yeah. And at the end, she ends up, like, testifying for herself and kind of getting to explain herself and stuff. And the judge who went to Yale really was offended that he lied about going to Yale. So I guess instead of her having to go to jail for anything, it just ended with him having a restraining order against her. And she's like, that's fine because I don't want to see him anyway.
Right.
And that's how the movie ends.
So intense.
There actually is another actual example of, like, a really forced dialogue line that I didn't like at the very end, because they're in the court, and then she has her stand-up act, and then they're all walking out of the bar talking about the outcome. Like, oh, you're you're okay with just a restraining order? And she was like, yeah, I don't want to see him anyway. And then they look at his old roommate and she's like, whatever did happen to that guy anyway? And she's like, oh, he moved out a few days after and blah, blah, blah. Let me wrap it up for you. And I'm like, this is like really obvious and kind of cheesy, but that's just like writing, like that's how you that's how you tell the story in that way, I guess.
I get it.
There are things they say like show, don't tell, right? And that was just a tell. And that's just a tell, so.
So what would you rate it, though?
What would I rate it?
Mm-hmm.
I would give it like 3.5 flicks, to be honest. Because even though the story did give me something to think about and did intrigue me, it was kind of like, the writing was just kind of eh.
Yep. Yeah.
It was not kind of, it was just like plain eh. It
was very I don't know what the best word would be to describe it, but yeah, very like textbook. That just went off out of nowhere.
Haunted.
I can't.
Get it?
Nope.
Turn it off. No.
I'm turning it off. Oh my god. No. That's not the first time it's happened either. Ugh, creepy. Anyway.
Yeah. I would say 3.5 flicks because I do feel like some jokes were funny, and then I do feel like a lot of jokes were old-fashioned.
I feel like that's a fair assessment because I was gonna give it a 3, and 3 only because the story is unique for the most part. It's pretty unique. Like nobody died, nobody drastically had life-threatening. Yes,
Fortunately, the only life-threatening situations were made up.
Right, exactly. So, I do like the story itself. I wish it was better told, better written.
Just the dialogue could be more believable, and then the whole story would be better.
And I think too. I think the cheesiness of the lines that how they've been said and how she was portrayed to be so swooned over him when he would give her the sob stories, I think that might have been a choice in regards to how it must have actually felt to believe him time after time after time. Oh, and yeah. I think that could have been, and so that to me gives it a 3 because I was like, maybe there's something there that I was just missing, and that that was a crucial thought process to.
And that's how she. And honestly, that's kind of like you have to remember, like, she's writing this from looking back on it, and so it's hard to see yourself in that perspective when you're looking back and knowing like he was lying to you at that time. So now you're thinking, I must have just been a fool, Yeah. So she wrote herself as a fool in those moments, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
It is. And I wish her the best. Honestly, that is a horrific, reality to live. That's horrible.
Yeah. Okay. I wish people were more honest in life.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I hate the human race disappoints me daily.
Anyway. Let's move on to the click. Ding.
The clickety click ding.
The clickety click.
So this game, this click, wow, it's unique. It's really unique in comparison to the games that we've talked about before. And this week's click is Phantom Abyss. And this game came out very recently. It came out on June 22nd this year.
Oh yeah. Another fun, weird thing is the movie came out June 22nd, 2021 or something. Really? Let me double check. It came out
That'd be wild.
I remember looking at that and I was like, okay, hold on, that's funny. I'm gonna double check because it was like June 21st or something.
Oh my gosh.
So Good on Paper, Good on Paper came out June 23rd, 2021. So I was like, oh, whoa, crazy. We picked ones that came out on like the exact same weekend.
That's so rad. That's so cool.
Anyway.
And with how new this game is, it's got raving reviews. Like absolutely stunning reviews. It's an indie game. It was released on Windows. It's got Legends of the Hidden Temple vibes mixed with like Indiana Jones.
I was gonna say, like, I was definitely feeling Temple Run.
Yeah, I was gonna say Temple Run.
Except,
but I changed it.
Except obviously more in depth. It was like,
right.
It's like Temple Run on steroids.
Yeah. And the game plays very smooth. It's very, like the mechanics of the game, crouching, running, sprinting, jumping, is all very nice. It's like butter. And I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but it's a massive asynchronous multiplayer game. And how it's the basis of it is where you're a character and you go through a temple run, and your end goal of that run is to get the relic. And the cool and unique thing about this game is that when you get the relic, you are the only person in the universe that can get that specific temple run and that specific relic. So that's nobody cool. else can play that temple again.
Because once the temple is completed, they're constantly redoing each map.
Regenerating and redesigning, reconfiguring. It's cool because you kind of see it as an Aztec calendar. So before and after you go through the run, there's like layers upon layers on kind of a wheel spectrum. And it shows you kind of like how the temple is going to go as far as what turns and all of that good stuff. It's really interesting how they redesign the temples.
Right.
You get 3 health points standard. There are other buffs that make you have more or less. But once you hit all 3 health points, once they're all gone, you're dead and you cannot try that temple again. That's it.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, it's a very frustrating game, but also that's where multiplayer comes in, where you've got friends that play the game.
But once you die on that level, you become a phantom for other players trying to complete that temple.
Yes. And when you're playing the game and you go to start a temple, you start with everybody that's attempted that temple. So when you start running, you see a bunch of people, a bunch of phantoms just running with you and going there, and because they're like their exact route.
Yeah, they're like ghosty looking. Like they look like
they're blue and clear, kind of.
Oh yeah, it's cool looking. Yeah.
Oh, very. And you can see their path. There's little dots that show you where they've gone and what they're doing. Shows you where they die too, which is cool.
Yeah, because you're like following all these people, and then you like watch them start like dying off one by one. And you're like, oh my god, it's gonna be me next.
It's so adrenaline heavy because you get to that point and you're like, is this it? Am I gonna win this temple? Is this me? And you see the ghost. You do get perks throughout the temple run. There are whips that you use specifically that kind of help you grapple up things.
That's like the main tool you have, right? Is your whip.
And the whip has different abilities too that you gain through doing so many levels and gaining so many coins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the temple is exactly what you would assume it to be. The floor is this beautiful like emerald green blue color. And the walls are this dusty gold brown color. So there's a very distinct color difference. And most of the booby traps, most of them are like red. And they'll shine red right in front of you. Or if you trigger
like
them.
as they're going off. There's like spikes in the floors and in the walls and stuff. And there's like trap doors and stuff that you can fall in.
Yep. Pyramids will fall.
Oh my gosh. It's like kind of anxiety inducing, right?
Central.
Not kind of, like definitely.
Anxiety central. And I don't. Keith has actually finished one.
Ooh, but very impressive.
Right? That's what I said. I was like, okay. But that's the purpose of playing the multiplayers, because if you die in a temple, you lose your whip and you lose certain things.
So and then the next temple, you just have to start with whatever.
You do gain those things back, though, when somebody finishes a temple. So that's like, hence the multiplayer part. You can send that temple to a friend, and then they can try to attempt it and get your stuff back.
Oh, so if you have a really nice whip that you lose, your friend can go back and get the whip for you. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a detail I missed. Okay, cool.
It's super rad. And, like you said, there's spikes, there's trapdoors and booby traps. There's enemies, and then the, oh goodness, the name is escaping my brain. They're a monster in the temple. It's a specific... the
one that comes up when you get the relic.
Yeah, God, what is it called?
What's the name? Like a spirit guardian or something?
A guardian. I think it's a guardian. I think that I couldn't remember at the top of my head.
Let me double check and look it up. I can do this. Fandomwiki.com. Oh my gosh, there's like almost nothing on this yet.
It's probably guardian. I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, they're these like spirit guardians that guard the relics in the temple.
Correct. And you have to defeat those, and they are not easy by any means. Basically you start with 3 health on standard, but some whips make it so you only have 1 health point. So it's a game that if you're a controller thrower, don't play. Like me, I can't play the game. I will freak out.
Cool.
I have not gotten past even the part where you encounter an enemy. That's how bad I am at the game, and that's how short my patience is. But
I have literally just watched other people play it.
Yeah,
I can't even get myself, like, I haven't even tried. I'm like, that's a lot of jumping.
A lot of dodging.
A lot of like falling, running and sliding.
Mm-hmm. It's wild.
I was good at Temple Run, the app, because you just do your little thumbs and you're like running.
Right. You're set.
But it's such a cool idea for a game, and it's so fun to like see the other people that have died and to see them die as you're playing. It's like Tomb Raider.
Right.
If you could see yourself dying.
Over and over again.
I could see all your mistakes.
It's a very unique game. I have yet to be able to compare it to something that is at the same caliber of difficulty, but also uniqueness. Like, it's so... It was just... Keith was on that game forever, and then I've tried it a few times. I could probably say like 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. But I was so fascinated with the concept of it. That
it's definitely like
not you claim a temple.
It's not a game that takes very long. It's just
no
a real quick, like, get on your computer and play a short little game.
Mm-hmm. And don't throw your keyboard.
But it's like every second is like heart racing. Like,
yeah.
You can't look away from the screen.
No.
I'm a mosier. I'm a game mosier where I'm like, let me be on a game for 5 hours. Like,
no
tending
anxiety.
My crops and mining in the caves and fishing.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, absolutely. I will not play that game.
I feel like my brain just won't be fast enough for that game.
And you're not timed, which is good. That takes a lot of
oh gosh, that would be
you can
so anxious.
Yeah, add one more thing and I'm like, nope, that's it. But the fact that you're not timed is really good because you can strategize, you can look around, but the enemies make that hard. They make it really hard to avoid standing in one place for too long. So
as far as like playing online with friends, this is, I don't know if I really love like not actually getting to play with your friends online though.
Right, like
it's interesting. It's different. It's new. It's nice and it's unique and all that, but I'm like, I really do like playing with my friends.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
it would be cool if you could tag team it. That'd be cool.
Yeah. But it would defeat the purpose like of the whole thing.
Right.
Of being like only one person can complete a temple.
Right.
Like on yeah.
It's true.
So
I think I would easily give it, I'd give it 5 clicks total. Right in the middle. Like, it's a great game. My personal experience, I would not play it very much. I'd probably like dabble, but I wouldn't sit and be stuck on it forever.
I probably could see myself like getting lost for hours in it just trying to, but I would definitely get frustrated, and I wouldn't be the type of person to willingly like I don't like to step into situations that I know I'm going to frustrate myself.
Right.
So those aren't the games that I normally go for.
Right.
It's games like that. So yeah, you know, like I said, I like farming games.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah,
those
bro.
are the best relaxation games.
Just want to grow some herb and chill, you know what I mean?
Yes, and woohoo, you know?
I just want to do some woohoo.
Woohoo.
In my own home. Why can't I have a video game? I just want to play a video game where I can woohoo in my own home.
Buy it now. Woohoo in your own home.
I was gonna give this game a 6 clicks because I do think that it's like above average.
Very.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like that it's, because they say it's like a multiplayer game in ways which are certain ways, but it really is a single player game. You're playing by yourself. So. But I like the idea of a single player game where you can see, oh wow, all of these other people in the whole wide world have played this game, are these things that I'm watching. Like, I can see how other people do things. I'm the type of person who like,
I'll follow
if there's like
them.
an assignment online or something, I'll wait to see what other people post to see like how they do it, so I can like figure out how I want to do mine. So the fact that you can see other people how they did the level to figure out how you want to do it.
Yes, that demonstration is crucial.
Yeah, I like that aspect of it. I don't think
too.
that it's like the way that it's like advertised as like, oh, it's a creative multiplayer game. It's not really a multiplayer game. It's like more of a creative single player game.
Yeah, right.
I
like
includes
that. Creative
online
single player.
Yeah, because it's you play on your own, and even when you watch like streamers there are a few streamers who have like done this game, and when they're playing with each other, like they're still just playing their own level and talking to each other about their level. So it's like, yeah, it's a single player game, but it's a multiplayer game. But it's really a single player game.
Truth.
But yeah, I would give it a 6. Just because obviously
that's pretty good.
All of these ratings are like a rating of not how I feel like how I interpret our rating system is like we're giving ratings based on how it made us feel personally.
Absolutely.
Not really how we're not really what we're suggesting to other people about
right. Maybe we should make a disclaimer.
Be like, by the way, all of these ratings are just like for us personally. Like
Because
we're rating them on how it made us feel while we were experiencing it.
Yes. 100%.
So I would say a 6, even though I feel like some people would be like, oh, this game is a 10. It's like,
right.
Art is beautiful and it's creative and it's new and it's blah, 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 and it's fast and fun and you only have to play 10 minutes. Like, it could hit everybody's buttons and be like, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Because, like, yeah, it's a good game. I'm not taking anything like that away from it. And I don't think, like, saying it's 6 is like, it's just for me, you know? Like, that's for me, baby.
That's why exactly I gave it a 5, because I was like, it's a fantastic game, but will I play it again? Like, I probably won't.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But that was the only factor, because besides that, obviously I wanted to review it because it's so unique.
I know. Yeah, and it's something that you definitely want to talk about because it's like it's out there, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's cool. It is cool.
It is.
Just too much stress for me. I can't do that. I can't do that kind of stress in a video game.
Enough anxiety on its own. All right. I think that concludes us, though.
I think we did it. I think we did another episode just now.
Woo! Ow,
yes. Baby!
Ow.
I was like yelling at my nephews the other day, and my sister said I sounded like Toad. I don't know what I was doing. I was like,
I can't be too loud.
I can't tell. I think that we sounded exactly the same just now. That's so funny. Okay.
Watch us sound the same on the playback.
That was so fun.
That was.
Thanks for listening.
I'm Melissa.
I'm Amiwawa. I'm trying it out. I don't know.
Keep it. Don't change. And you just got done listening to Click and Flick.
Da, 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 da. Click and flick.
Click. Ciao. Hey folks, thanks for listening and sticking around.
If you enjoyed what you heard, subscribe and follow for some more Click and Flick content.
If you'd like to hear us talk about your favorite movies and video games, you can send us your suggestions to clickandflickpodcast@gmail.com.
That's click, A-N-D, flick podcast@gmail.com.
We can't wait to hear from you guys.
Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.